Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Kyle's Croatian Kitchen. Today I have for you RIblja Juha, or fish soup. Continue our exploration of Croatian soups. We have this traditional soup from Dalmatia. Because Dalmatia is along the coast, fish is very important to the cuisine. It can be made many different ways: on the grill, in a stew, and as I'll show you today, in a soup. Croatians love their soup, and Dalmatia of course is no different, putting fish into one of their basic soups. It might seem weird having fish in a soup, especially if you've never had something like this before, but I promise you it is very good and something new to try that I'm sure you'll enjoy. There's nothing better than a nice warm bowl of soup on a cold day, and fish soup surely fits that bill. Without further ado, let's get into the ingredients. The base of the soup is the same as chicken and beef soup. We have carrots, onions, parsley root, parsley leaf, celery root, and a leaf of Savoy cabbage. If you have celery stalk, definitely add that in there too, but I couldn't find it today at the market. In lieu of chicken or beef bones, of course, we have our fish. The way to tell that your fish is fresh is if the eye is clear, not cloudy, and if you look at the gills, they are nice and red. Of course, because it is fish, it will smell like fish, but it shouldn't be overpowering. Where I'm standing now up here and the fish down there, I don't smell it at all. But if I put my nose closer to it, then I will start to smell a little bit of fishy smell. That is totally okay. If you're this distance away and you can smell something really fishy, then the fish is not good. Fish soup is traditionally served with rice, so that's what we'll be serving it with today. Of course, you can sub soup noodles if you'd like, or serve it without anything extra. And for seasoning, we of course have salt and pepper, bay leaf, and I have this packet of Dalmatian spices. It comes already pre-mixed, and it has rosemary, basil, winter savory, thyme, marjoram, and oregano. If you don't have a pre-made mix like this, about a teaspoon of each of those herbs will suffice, or whichever ones you want to use instead. It is important to have a whole fish because we want the bones, and specifically the head, to flavor the soup. I only have one fish, it's about 1 pound, and that's because I'm only making this for myself. If you have more people, of course you should have more fish. About 1 pound per person would be good. My fish was not descaled or gutted, so I'm going to do that here, but if you don't want to, you can of course ask your fishmonger to do it for you. It will be free of charge, but I will show you how to clean the fish. Right, that's it for all the ingredients. I'm gonna head over to the sink and we'll start to clean our fish. So here we have the fish. I put a paper towel down at the bottom of the sink. That's to catch the scales and any guts because we don't want that going down the drain. So the first thing what you want to do is you need a knife and you'll hold the fish from the side. Push that down. You want to use the back side of the knife and you just scrape down along the fish as such. It is a little slippery, so just make sure you get a firm hold and scrape from the tail towards the head. You can see the scales starting to come off. Do this until all the scales have been removed from your fish. And once you can run the knife along the fish and no more scales pop up or off, you'll know that you've gotten them all. It is important to get all of them because you don't want to get any scales in your soup. It's not a very pleasant texture.
And now we're going to gut the fish. It's important to have the water running the entire time, which is why I switched to a voiceover. First thing which you're going to try to find is a little hole at the bottom of the fish near the end of the belly. This is the fish's exit part. What you want to do is make 4 cuts around the hole in a way that you make a diamond around it, being careful not to poke in through this hole. Afterward, take your knife, blade facing the head, and poke right above where the part of your diamond meets, just through the belly, and bring your knife up to the top towards the head. Bring all the way up to the head, and you should be able to cut through the bones very easily. Once you're at the gills, remove the gills and pull everything out. In an ideal world, the gills and innards all come out in one fell swoop, but that doesn't always happen as evidenced here, so you have to just start pulling everything out. This is why the water runs too, so you can also clean the inside of the fish while removing all the innards. Once everything has been removed, give the inside of the fish a nice scrub with water And once you see there's no more blood or yellow around the inside, it is cleaned and ready to go.
There's our cleaned fish. Now that we have cleaned our fish, it's time to prep the fish. Very simple. All we're going to do is cut the head off. The reason we're cutting the head off is because it's going to stay in the soup and simmer with all the other vegetables for an hour, whereas the rest of the fish, so the meat, we'll take out once it's done cooking. Taking the fish head off is super simple. We just want to go right down this line here. So we'll just cut through the one side, through the bone, up and through, right until we hit the neck bone, and we'll just flip the fish over and do the same on the other side. And then once we hit the backbone, just cut right through. It's a fish, so it cuts pretty easily. Then we have our two parts, our head and the rest of the fish. Here we have our pot. Like with every other soup, all we're going to do is take all of our vegetables, put them right on in. I'll first put in the fish head. The head first, because it's not coming out, then the rest of the fish, because that we're going to remove, and if it's on the top, it just makes it easier. I'll do the herbs later, once we have everything over on the stove. Now that everything is in our pot, I'm going to fill it with cold water, just until everything is covered, and set it on the stove. Once it's on the stove, I'll bring it up to a boil, and then turn the heat down to a simmer. The fish should cook in about 10 minutes. A thicker fish will take longer than a thinner fish. You can use a thermometer, and 145 along with the backbone is when you know it's done, or if it flakes. You don't want to overcook the fish because it turns tough and not great to eat. Once the fish has finished cooking, we'll remove it from the pot and then take the meat off. We want to get the backbone. Once the backbone is free, we'll put it back into the pot and simmer along with the rest of the ingredients and put foil on top of the meat to keep it warm. The meat will be returned to the soup once it's done. I know I say it a lot, but really be careful with the fish soup how much salt you're putting in. The fish soup tends to be on the saltier side, so really try to be conservative at the start, because you can always add more, and you don't want to end up with too salty fish soup. And once the soup is done, we'll take it off the heat and drain. Remember, we want to commit to pouring, otherwise we'll spill everywhere. Let the rest of the stock drip out. Sure everything comes out. Give it a little shake to get all of our stock. Once it's done, we'll put the strainer back on here and we'll leave this on the stove. Most of all that you can discard. It's given us everything that we need, except for the carrots. We can save the carrots and put those into the soup. Now, here we have our stock. I'm going to take a bowl as well as a ladle. I'm going to put some into here to make my soup. The rest of this I'm going to put into the freezer because it lasts longer in the freezer. Of course, after it's cooled down, you don't want to put hot stock into the freezer while it's still hot. Otherwise, it'll raise the temperature and anything else you have in there will start to warm up as well, and that could be very bad. That's enough in there. Like I said at the beginning, this is typically served with rice, so I'm going to take it's just for myself, so let's go. Spilling rice everywhere. About 2 handfuls of rice. I'm gonna go put this on the stove. Because it's hot, it'll come to a boil pretty quickly. This cooks for about 16 minutes according to the package, but because it's in a soup, we'll cook only for about 12 minutes. It'll continue to cook while it sits in the bowl. And about 2 to 3 minutes before the rice is finished cooking, just add the fish back into the soup. And give a little stir to break up the big pieces. And once the soup is ready, it's time to serve. Give it a little taste for seasoning before and add a little bit more salt as it was necessary. But it's just myself, so I'm just gonna pour it in here all my own. And here we have RIblja Juha. I'm pretty hungry, so let's just go in. Got some fish, some rice, some broth. It's probably gonna be hot. It's not overly salty. It's not overly salty. And like I was saying before, don't put too much salt in at the start because RIblja Juha tends to be very, very salty. So if you cut down the salt at the beginning, you can be a little bit more conservative about how much you're adding in at the end so you can get it just right. Because remember, it's going to reduce as it cooks. So a lot of salt at the beginning is going to be more concentrated as it cooks. This isn't too salty at all, and it's perfect. The fish is nice and tender, almost like melt in your mouth. And the rice comes in there just a little bit al dente still, but as it sits in the soup, it'll continue to cook and soften up. It's amazing. It's soup, it's fish, it's put together. I guess that's what fish soup is. Kind of silly. It is amazing, perfect for a cold day like it is today. So this was RIblja Juha. Let's take that out. Dobar tek.